This happened a few years ago, and I've gone back and forth about whether or not I should ever talk about it publicly. Not because I'm scared anymore, but because I still don't fully understand what I stumbled into. Some experiences don't end with closure. They just stop, and you're left to fill in the gaps yourself. This one left a lot of gaps. Back then, after college, I was just floating. I didn't have a real career path, no solid plans. I was just hopping from one short-term job to another, barely making enough to pay rent. I was applying for absolutely everything: warehouse work, delivery gigs, overnight security shifts, anything that didn't ask too many questions about my 5-year plan. That's when I found the listing. It was for a night receptionist at a private recreational facility just outside the city. The first thing I noticed was the pay. It was unusually high, especially for a job that didn't seem to require much experience. The duties were listed as monitoring access between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. No answering phones, no real customer service. Just sit there. But one line in the description stuck out to me. Applicants must be comfortable working alone and following instructions exactly. I probably should have seen that as a warning sign, a red flag. Instead, I just saw dollar signs. It felt like a perfect fit for where I was in life, a quiet, high-paying gig where I could just exist for a few hours. I sent in my application, not expecting much. They called me back within an hour. The building itself didn't look strange at first glance. Driving up, it just resembled an old, closed-down community center. The signage was faded, the parking lot was dimly lit, and there was absolutely no foot traffic. It looked abandoned, but inside, it was surprisingly clean and modern. I was greeted by a man who introduced himself as Victor. He was probably in his mid-40s, polite and very well-dressed, but he had the kind of smile that never quite reached his eyes. There was a coldness to him. He explained my job in the simplest terms. 1. Sit at the front desk. 2. Log anyone who enters. 3. Unlock a specific side door, but only if someone presents a solid black access card. And 4. Never, under any circumstances, leave the desk unattended. Then he added the rule that made my stomach tighten. It's part of the facility's operations. You don't need to be concerned. I laughed a little, thinking it must be a joke, maybe a weird test. Victor didn't laugh back. He just stared at me, dead serious, until I stopped. That's when I knew this wasn't a normal job. For the first 2 weeks, it was exactly as advertised. Dead quiet. A few people would come in each night. Always alone. Always silent. They would swipe the same plain black card, and I'd buzz them through the door. I never heard laughter, or conversations, or music coming from inside, just a low, constant hum of a ventilation system and these occasional, strange mechanical noises I couldn't place. They sounded like gears turning or something heavy being moved. No one ever stayed past midnight, and more unsettling, no one ever made eye contact with me on their way out. They'd just walk past the desk like I was part of the furniture. Honestly, that should have been enough for me to quit. The whole vibe was off, but every payday, the money hit my account right on time, and it was more than I'd ever made. Then, on the 3rd week, things changed. It started with sounds. Faintly, through the walls, I started hearing muffled voices. It wasn't shouting, and it wasn't normal talking. It was something in between. Like hushed, urgent arguments spoken just softly enough that you couldn't make out the words. It felt tense, secretive. Then came the smell. It, a sharp, metallic scent, almost like rust or old blood. Sometimes it was more chemical, like industrial cleaners. And one night, there was a distinct smell of something burning. It was acrid and unsettling. I decided to push my luck and asked Victor about it in a text. I tried to keep it casual, just asking if they were doing maintenance. He replied with a single, chilling message. "You're doing great. Don't ask questions." My heart sank. That wasn't an answer. It was a threat. That very same night, a man came to the door but had forgotten his access card. He stood outside the glass, looking right at me. I expected him to just leave, but he didn't. He just stood there, staring. And then he smiled, a wide, unnatural grin that sent a shiver down my spine. He eventually turned and walked away. But that image was burned into my mind. My breaking point came on a Thursday night. It was late, close to the end of my shift, around 1:30 a.m. Everything had been quiet for hours. Then I heard it. A loud, heavy thud from deep inside the facility. It sounded like something big and solid had been dropped. It was followed by a silence so complete and sudden that it felt intentional, like the whole building was holding its breath. Against all my training, against Victor's explicit rule, against my own better judgment, I stood up. I took one single step away from the desk, craning my neck to see down the main hallway, and that's when a door I had never seen before, one that I thought was just part of the wall, slowly creaked open at the far end of the hall. For just a split second, I saw inside. The room was bathed in an intensely bright, sterile light, and the floors were covered in sheets of clear plastic. And on the floor, there was something, a shape, a heap, something that was dark and sprawled out in a way that looked wrong. It looked like it shouldn't have been there. I didn't stay long enough to identify it. I didn't want to. I didn't breathe. I just stared straight ahead until the sun came up. Victor was waiting for me outside when my shift ended. He wasn't smiling. He just looked disappointed, like a parent who'd caught their child misbehaving. No. He told me I had two options. I could come back the next night, but come in early for a discussion. Or I could walk away right now, forget this address, and forget the facility ever existed. But before I could answer, he leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper, and he said something I will never, ever forget. He said, "Most people who work here don't notice anything. They just see a desk and a clock. But you did. You noticed. That means you're not as invisible as you think you are." I didn't go back. I walked away and never looked back. 4 months afterward, I was a wreck. The paranoia was constant. I'd get calls from unknown numbers that would just hang up. The second I answered, I'd see unfamiliar cars slowed down as they passed my apartment building. Packages I never ordered would show up at my door, small empty boxers. It was a subtle, psychological torment. Then, one day, just as suddenly as it all started, it stopped. Less than a year later, the building was demolished. I drove by one day and it was just a vacant lot. There was no news report about it, no public records of the demolition, no explanation at all. It was just gone, erased. I've tried to look it up online. I've searched for the company, the address, anything. There's nothing. It's like it never existed. But sometimes, late at night when it's quiet, I still think about that room. I think about the bright lights and the plastic on the floor, and I wonder what would have happened if I had let my curiosity win for just a few seconds longer. Some places aren't haunted. They're operational.